Welcome to this short video. We're going to have a look at some of the yellow flowers that you might find in the countryside or in parks at this time of year and how to tell them apart. First of all, these are primroses. You're very likely to find them in gardens as well as in parks and in the countryside. So I thought we'd start with these ones because you're likely to find them a lot at this time of year. They tend to be around the same time as daffodils, but I'm pretty sure everybody knows how to identify a daffodil. So I've left those ones out, even though they're obviously yellow flowers. Wild primroses look like the one towards the back left of this picture. Very, very pale, creamy coloured and with a yellow centre. Insects are really attracted to bright yellow, and that's why you find a lot of bright yellow centres on so many flowers. The one nearer the front is one that's been specially bred to be more yellow, and obviously we can find lots of different coloured ones, but I've left the other colours out at the moment because we're just focusing on yellows. So these you could find in the countryside. You would also find in gardens, in hanging baskets, in window boxes. So they're really very common. Okay, here we're going to focus on two wildflowers that are quite often confused by people who don't look at them closely very often. We've got a buttercup on the right hand side of the photograph, and down in the bottom left hand corner we've got a dandelion, which isn't open but a dandelion flower all the same. So we're going to have a look at some of the differences between these on the next couple of pictures. Right, these are buttercups. They have 5 petals, which are round-edged, and all of their reproductive parts there in the middle you can see sticking out, the anthers and the stamens. They have very jagged-edged leaves. We call that serrated. So anything that's got lots of little points on the edges of its leaves, you'd call that a serrated-edged leaf. And here we can see those quite clearly in the bottom right-hand corner of the picture. Little bit of extra information there for you. The Latin name for buttercups is ranunculus, which means little frog, because they were quite often found near ponds and in wet areas of land. And the Latin genus name for frogs is Rana. So you can see that ranunculus and Rana have come from the same origin. They've got absolutely nothing to do with butter. They don't give butter its colour. Cows don't eat them because they're poisonous. So it's just one of those strange common names that's happened to stick that has actually nothing to do with the flower itself. In this picture, you can really clearly see the jagged leaves of the buttercup. And this one's a bit more unusual because it's a double flower. So you can see that besides the main petals around the outside, it's also got an extra set of petals on the inside. And I just thought it's quite an unusual one, so I thought I'd pop this one in too. In this picture, we can see some dandelions really closely. They've got these short, straight yellow petals, very, very different from the round-edged and only few petals that we saw on the buttercup. They also, when they're pollinated, open up again, but show their fluffy white heads. And you can see one of those in the top right-hand corner of this picture. And they're obviously the seeds that are blown by the wind, so they're seed dispersed. They get their name because their leaves are also jagged, but in a different way than the buttercup. They're more like teeth coming out from the edges, and that's where they get their name. So dandelion comes from the French dent de lion, teeth of the lion. And they can quite often be commonly known as wet the beds or wee the beds. So if you know them as that name, obviously these are dandelions, and the difference between the yellow flower and the white puffy seed head is literally just time and pollination having happened. Okay, so far we've looked at some really common flowers. So primroses and dandelions and buttercups are all very, very commonly found yellow flowers. This one's a little bit less common. If you find one of these, brilliant, well done. You can find them in parks, in areas where they've maybe not been mown so regularly. And these are bird's foot trefoils, and trefoil means it has 3 leaves, and in this case it also has 3 petals. And you can see they've got quite unusual shaped petals, and when the buds are closed they look a little bit pink tinged on the outside. When they open up they're bright yellow. You find these a lot near sand dunes as well, but you can find them in lots and lots of grassland. So that would be a really impressive find if you found some of those in a local park. The last plant we're going to look at is actually a tree that has yellow flowers, and it's flowering at the moment in May. And this is a Forsythia tree. So they've got these long fronds of yellow flowers. And when the flowers have been pollinated, they leave pods, a bit like pea pods, but really poisonous. And I'm going to carry on taking photographs of this tree because it's really close to where I live. And we'll have a look at it as it loses its flowers and develops those pods so you can see what they look like. Finally, just another quick look at the Forsythia tree from a different angle so you can see how big it is. And we'll come back to these. So next video is going to be some different coloured flowers that you might not know, and hopefully you'll be able to answer my quick quiz that I'll attach to this video on yellow flowers.